Welcome back, everyone. We have here James Huang. How are you, James?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Awesome. Where are you right now?
Well, I was very fortunate to see you and your husband in Chicago, and now I flew to Dallas for another event where we're going to be actually doing our first live commercial event out here for eXp Commercial. Very exciting.
That's wonderful. So, James, I'm so proud to have you as a model for all of us. You came here with nothing, and now the leader of a large organization and fastly growing company, right? So you have made such a positive impact on many people's life. We want to know the secret. Would you mind to share?
Always happy to share the secrets. And it's really, I always say no secret. A lot of times you always need to learn as much as you can, be willing to make mistakes, surrounding yourself by good people, getting good mentors, and finding good advocates. And through this journey that I've taken, I've always had good people I can rely on. It's never always easy, good organizations to trust and be a part of. And then just constantly moving forward, knowing that no matter what you do, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to surround yourself by always good people so you can always get better. And I think with Delphine, you and your husband, I'm always learning so much from both of you too, and everyone else I meet.
Oh, thank you. I really admire your, you are very humble and very generous, and I appreciate it. Thank you. So you are with eXp Commercial, and I would love to have a few questions about the commercial real estate investing. So as you may know, the commercial real estate industry is intimidating to think about being a part of it, right? So there are so many players and large competitors. People have the perception that they need significant capital or connections in this sector to break into this market. So what's your take on that?
Yes, so it is intimidating because it is like many things that it is not as transparent. People do not understand it, so they're always afraid of things that they don't understand. And one of the things that we are doing too is really changing the way commercial real estate's done, but also the way it looks. So it's very important, in commercial real estate is to learn as much as you can. And I always said when I first came into commercial real estate, I really didn't know what it was either, but learning from a large firm, and sometimes we always say learning from a large firm doesn't mean you have to stay there the whole time, is kind of gives you an opportunity behind the curtains to learn the brokerage business. And I always told most people, if you learn the commercial brokerage business, you are learning off of somebody else's money by just doing the business, learning how to underwrite the business, how do you find the deals? And then as you start growing from the initial part of learning it, doing it, you start figuring out, I could start buying it. I could start, like if you're doing syndicating, I could start up other ancillary businesses attached to commercial business. But I always said commercial brokerage, learning the basics, even if you're putting your dues 1 or 2 years really doing it, it is the foundation and the basis of most of my learning from commercial real estate. And then just from there, volunteering in different trade organizations, finding different mentors, finding different advocates to help you, and then constantly evolving yourself, right? We always say 9 to 5, you don't get rich, you don't grow. It's after 5 o'clock that you start really doing your real business.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing. So with residential, is the investment is straightforward and easy to understand. Is an easy way to understand the business and acquire the assets with little time or money. You can access your position quickly without too much turmoil, thanks to its liquid market. Anyone can buy it, sell it, and exit when they want. Why should somebody consider investing in commercial real estate?
Yes. So with residential, there is more players, more people, right? Lower barrier of entry. As you enter commercial real estate, there is more sophisticated players, less, higher barrier of entry with more dollars, more education, more knowledge, more connections, so you can find the opportunity. Plus, there's a wider variety. Like most times, single family or condos, there's not much variation. But in commercial real estate, you can be in multifamily, retail, office, industrial, land development, right? Triple net, coupon cutting, leases, right? Master leases. Many times people do an arbitrage on leases before. I know that's translated to the residential business opportunities, running a hotel, motel, dry cleaner, gas station. Many businesses fall within commercial real estate. So that's the differentiator is when you say residential, it falls into a smaller, easier to digest, more liquid, easier to finance. But in commercial real estate, there's a wide variety of product types, wide variety of ways to finance the deal, and so much knowledge and intricacies. But of course, anytime things are more complicated, there's a lot more opportunities, right? There's many ways to make the deals happen.
Thank you. And you invested in residential and commercial. You manage brokerage. So could you please share how do commercial real estate investors make money?
Yeah, so a lot of times commercial real estate, when we say, are you cash flow or value add? So a lot of times people just want cash flow, right? Depending on what part of their lives they're in. But value add is when you look at a property and you say, I could add some extra units, I could subdivide, I can break up the land. So, that's the thing when we always say in commercial real estate, are you cash flow or are you value add, right? To create appreciation and something more than just cash flow. So a lot of times, those are the ways you look at it. If you can find both, which is rare, but you can kind of do both. But a lot of times you look at making great cash flow, pretty high cash flow off your property, or you can get the value add, right? And the best thing about real estate, as everyone knows, is the tremendous amount of write-off. I learned from mentors, they basically said you can write off everything in commercial real estate. So by the time you can 1031 exchange, which, and I know we're going to talk about this maybe in another segment, you could keep deferring your taxes of value add to a point you want to cash flow your property or do many things. So in commercial real estate, it gives you a lot of ways to make your money, to place your money and save on taxes.
Awesome. So there are many ways to make money, right, and save on tax income, right? So how much capital do you need to invest in commercial real estate? People think it's like big money, huge money to come in that world, right?
And so commercial real estate, the dollar amounts are usually larger. But like what you're doing, you can syndicate, you can buy a piece of the commercial as a limited partner, you can make different ways, but it is more expensive because of the financing. You do have to put more money down as a down payment to finance the property. Then you need good credit or a strong enough credit to buy the property. But you can, depending on marketplace, find an area where you can buy the land, to land bank it. You can find a small distressed 5 units or above, or a small retail shop that in some, I would say, secondary, tertiary markets, you could get in, around half $500,000 or even a quarter, but it does take a lot of energy and finding the opportunity. So you could get in cheaper, but it is, yes, on the equity, more expensive than residential.
Wonderful. So it is true that there are many advantages to investing in commercial real estate. So please share with us how a small and a novice investor can start learning about commercial real estate.
Yeah, so I always say, if you have the time, you should go through the process. But if you're just an investor, you have a day job, you should join these investment clubs, right, to talk, share ideas. You should take seminars, webinars, talking and learning from others that what are they doing, figuring out where you want to concentrate in this very wide commercial real estate field. If it's multifamily, then start targeting multifamily groups, multifamily investment clubs, learning from these there's so much webinars and information out there on multifamily. And then you want to find a kind of a mentor, somebody that has invested in multifamily before to kind of give you guidance and the baby steps that you should go through the process. Many times I always say you should find that mentor, maybe invest as a limited partner first so you could see the P&L, how do you rehab, take a look at the property, right? Take the baby steps before you put all of your money into one deal, right? Get the knowledge from, I always say, the dummy way of investing. if you had the opportunity, invest with the smartest person you know, the most experienced person you know, because you can learn as a limited partner to see what they're doing. And then you can take the next step, trying to be the general partner, finding the opportunities, using your credit, getting other limited partners, finding the right attorneys, CPAs, and we always say finding experts to surround yourself with is how you kind of build and grow yourself to the point where you are growing one property, 2 properties, 3 properties, 5 properties to large portfolios, because we've seen it done. And over enough time, if you're not greedy, that's the other thing, don't over leverage. Real estate's the long term. You can find yourself with a great amount of success.
Fabulous. So there are a lot of hopes for the small investor. And so now a lot of us started with single family homes, right? Invest in just a few single family homes or townhouses. So can you please tell us what is the best order for investing in real estate? It's like some people start with single family homes, but I saw a lot. They just start from just have zero knowledge about real estate investing and jump right into commercial, or like you say, passive investor, and then become active. So should someone start from single family homes and work their way up to commercial real estate, or should they just make a leap of faith into commercial real estate right away?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. Many people invest the traditional 401k or their IRA, they're putting money in the stock market until they realize that they can get good write-offs. Most of the people fall in, like my family, they buy their first home, but they don't want to sell their first home, so they buy their second home. And then they buy their third home, or some buy 4th, 5th home. But the thing is, with each one of their homes, and they really look at it, there is so much appreciation within their single family home. And reclassifying it as an investment rental property now, many times if you have so much equity in your single family home, you need to look at what the cash flow, because most likely you're renting it out. When you're renting it out, then you could say, wow, I have $500,000, $1 million sometimes in equity in my single family home investment property. I should roll it over through a 1031 exchange into bigger properties. Now you can leverage, let's say, from a single family with cash flowing maybe 10% as you first built up the cash flow, and then you roll it to a multifamily, which is just the step up from single family. And now you can, instead of doing one home with that $1 million, you may have 25 to 40 units, right? And depending on market area, where now you could cash flow versus that small 10% where it could only maybe be $25,000, $35,000 net, that now you could be making $120,000, $150,000. I mean, over time, I've seen it. And then you get these write-offs, and then that's how people start. Really, from what I've seen on their experiences, they fall into real estate, commercial real estate, by buying a lot of single family homes, building up equity, but realizing that is not the most efficient way, is to keep all their single family home, but selling their single family home, 1031 exchanging it into something bigger.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim. So now that is the path, but what are the main steps? What are the main steps for somebody who knows nothing about commercial real estate, but wants to be successful in this field of expertise?
Yes, and a lot of times what you want to do too is to learn, right? I always say you got to learn before you can earn. You got to learn as much as you can. Then you need to talk to a mentor or advisory group. They'll feel like yourself or your husband, you know, as I got to know you, there's a lot to learn, and it's wonderful stuff. And sometimes people don't know how much they know, right? Because they're just in the process of doing it. But I would say always read, always go to workshops, seminars, find a mentor, find somebody that can help you, guide you, give you some extra knowledge, practical knowledge, because they've actually done this before, right? You don't want to talk to somebody who just is book knowledge. They've never done it before, because you're going to probably hit a lot of mistakes. So you need, like yourself, Delphine, your husband, and other investors who've actually done this before. So you need their guidance and following them. And even, like I said, the next step is to invest with them, right? Anyone that has a good track record, you want to, you know, put anywhere from, let's say, 10,000, 25,000, 50, 100, you know, whatever you can to learn this business from somebody, shadowing them, because that knowledge is so invaluable. What you want to do to one day taking your own leap of faith so you can invest on your own or start syndicating, bringing other people's money together. But you really do need to educate yourself. And I feel so nervous sometimes because I've been on these calls before where people are so anxious to put their money to work. I said, no, slow down. Educate yourself first, because it's not just deploying money in a liquid asset where you may not be able to get out. Or, the biggest things in real estate, if you buy incorrectly, you may have to you have to hold it through an entire market cycle, right? So I think everyone needs to be patient, to educate themselves, find somebody that's an expert to mentor and learn from, take a baby step of investing with a group. So you're learning how to do this, understanding what's going on before you kind of take the whole enchilada and do it yourself.
Wonderful, thank you. So keep learning and finding for ourselves a mentor, right? And plug in the groups, in all the with all the people who's doing it, so we can learn. And the environment is very important, right? So beside all the knowledge, what is the right preparation, like psychology, emotionally, mindset for somebody who has no knowledge or no experience to participate in commercial real estate?
Yeah, so you have to be really strong and know that you have to invest for the long term, longer time frame. It is not like you're buying a Bitcoin or you're buying something like, oh, it goes up, right? Even with the volatility, it scares people. Real estate is a long-term game. Even though people may have seen strong growth with a lot of people buying it, hearing these stories, understand commercial real estate is a long-term gain. So it's patient money. So most people have to understand that. Don't just say, oh my gosh, I put it in right now, and in less than a year, I want to pull my money out and double my money. No, you actually are probably the people I will avoid, because these type of things, if it happens, great. But most of the mindset for commercial real estate is a long-term mindset, knowing that you're going to get appreciation, you're going to get cash flow, and you're going to get tax write-offs. So when you prepare your mind of how you're going to enter this business or invest in real estate, you need to have long-term mindset.
Thank you so much for your wise advice. So we have been discussing commercial real estate is a thriving sector, and there are many ways to invest in it. The most common investments include like REITs, mortgage-backed securities, like private equity funds and hedge funds. What vehicles can we use to invest in real estate, in your opinions?
Yeah, and those are great vehicles. Those are more liquid, right? Because they are publicly traded vehicles, and they are the K1s and the knowledge out there. You can see, right, from the quarterly reports and everything. So the good time is, if you're looking at REITs, I use REITs as indicators of what the economy, reading their reports, maybe even just buying a share of different REITs from the multifamily REIT, retail REITs, hospitality REITs, because by learning what different industry and product types from their reports, and they are sophisticated investors, money managers, it's great to learn, right? Putting a little bit of money, getting these reports so you can read on it, using this, especially if you're going to enter the multifamily or office or retail, industrial, all these different sectors. You can learn from these large publicly traded funds because they are liquid. That's the thing. They are liquid. You can change them back and forth depending on where the stock market's going. That's the interesting thing. But because they are in these industries, you can learn a lot by reading their reports, understanding where they're moving, understanding cash flow. It gives you a lot of good knowledge with these large companies, because that's what I do too. I watch them so I can understand on a macro level what's going on. Granted, when we invest, we're investing on a micro level, but the overall economy, product type movements, as everyone has seen, retail has been going down, and it's readjusting and redefining itself because of Amazon and the online shopping. While industrial buildings before didn't really grow, but now it's growing because the online shopping needs industrial hubs, but then multifamily stable, but then hotels industry came down, but now it's coming back up. So it's very interesting to study each product type, and commercial is always interesting because sometimes when one is up, the other is down, and there's always opportunities to invest and move your money around as a 1031 investor. So it's very exciting.
Very exciting. I can see that. And it's great news that we know that the resources are out there, like in public. So we just need to seek for it and keep learning, right? So with what happened in the economy recently, now is a good time to invest in commercial real estate?
Well, you know, if you've been seeing, because possible inflationary fears, right? People are going to hard assets, diversifying. You've heard some of these large companies buying all these single family homes, commercial real estate property, right? So you kind of see it, but you always be patient. I always say you got to be patient. Don't follow the herd. Don't always overreact and jump on the bandwagon before you do your research, education, finding a mentor, right? Don't just throw money just because you think you're missing something. No, there's always, I always say, another bus coming, another opportunity coming, as long as you're patient, right? You got to be patient and not just get overly excited. So a lot of times we're watching to see what's going on in this market cycle because of printing more money, right? Because of what's going on. The moratorium has been pushed so far, right, that we added the moratorium again for multifamily, single family homes, you know, and other help, right, for the retail sector, the small business owners. So right now I'm being patient, and I'm telling everyone, let's just be patient. Let's look, let's study, let's monitor what's going on, so you don't overreact in a market cycle. So keeping your powder dry, I would say, is the money and your credit ready to act if there's a situation, or don't put all your money in, finding teams and groups to invest with so you could participate, right, with this and learn, but you're not trying to put all your money in at one time.
Yeah, that you're absolutely right. So from the conversation, when we met you and also today, I heard the word connection. So connections are the backbone of commercial real estate, right? So what is the best way to increase somebody's network so that they can invest successfully in commercial real estate? Your advice?
Yes, so I think, you know, you should always join commercial trade organizations like CCIM, SIOR, ICSC, depending on what product type you want to do. There's so many trade organizations out there that you could be involved with. So I would say always definitely get involved. Your net worth is your network, right? That you need to be surrounded by many people and be more involved. So there's always the passive person who's quiet, just listening, to an active person getting more involved to a point where there are leaders or even running the entire organization. This allows you to have higher visibility, to connect, network, and people like you, Delphine, just people coming to you, right? Because when you're out there, putting yourself out there, and I know it's uncomfortable and some people don't like to do it, you should, because if you do it more often, you never know with social media now going on, who do you attract? Who does this message, who does this get out to that will reach out to you to make a connection that you probably never would have had in your local market? Nowadays, you could reach out and talk to people all around the world. So I always say people using your Facebook, using your LinkedIn or whatever social media platform, building a profile, building a brand, reaching out to connect while you're networking within these different organizations and learning. And eventually it does lead you to very interesting connection. Delphine, like us, yeah, we were connected through a mutual friend.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate your advice. So net worth is your net worth, right? Your network is your net worth. I'm so proud of you for being a volunteer for years in multiple organizations. our Facebook group here is a group of people who volunteer for the community. So volunteering is the best way to give back and make our community better. So we all know how great it feels when we do something nice for other people, right? But volunteering has an added bonus in that. Not only we are helping someone else out by doing them a favor, but we are expanding our network. So what would you tell our members here on how volunteering is beneficial based on your own experience?
Yes, so I always say one day back before the Great Recession, right? When I lost everything, I realized that, you need to do something bigger than yourself. So I really concentrate on focusing on giving back. What we're trying to do is change the way the business is done, change the way it's looking, but also giving back, helping out, because this is really good for your soul, and it can be beneficial because many people that join different nonprofits, right? They sometimes want first the network. But no, you want to find the good organization you care about. Like for me, it was AREAA, the Asian Real Estate Association of America, because we talked about sustainable home ownership for the Asian community, AAPI community, which was very important to me, and the voice for AAPI. So that was very important to me. So when I joined it, I gave all my efforts and anything I could, not saying, oh, am I going to get a referral or am I going to get business or anything else? I just cared about the organization. So usually when you care and you give, you get. And that's the mystical, magical thing about anything, that when you're giving, you give because you like it, you enjoy it first. And then in time, usually what people will tell you as you're truly involved, servant heart, giving back, you will get something out of it. And even most of the time, the best, most precious thing is the friendships. When you get good friends, what is more valuable than that, right? So to me, that is the biggest thing. Is I've made tremendous amount of friends from all the organizations I volunteered and I served on. And the most priceless thing to this day are the friendships I have. Not that we had any referrals or money or anything. I mean, I'll tell you, it does come, but the friends, the friendships, the lifelong friendships, that's what's most important when people see it. And that's priceless.
I strongly believe in the friendships too, because when we work on a project together as a team, and when we overcome all the challenges together, the feeling is wonderful. It's hard to explain, and it's so rewarded. So in the audience today, the real estate professional, and also there are people who thinking of becoming a commercial real estate brokers, agents. What is the advice you would like to share with them?
Yeah, so if you're looking at getting into a career to be a professional, reach out, to people like myself or big firms to learn. But you need to find out to make sure that you're aligned, right? Because you need to find somebody that cares about you too, whatever organization. Unfortunately, if you don't, you're going to get abused and you're going to get used in these commercial real estate, because it is a dog-eat-dog, very tough industry to break into. It did take me 25 years to get to this point, and I did work just as hard, fought every single way, volunteered until I got, after 25 years, to get to this point. So it is important that you learn from the best you can find, so you can learn from, and they can guide you where to go. And then when you're on this process, then you do find your mentor and advocates to help you follow this journey. And I always say, anyone that wants to really become a professional at this, it is not for the weak-hearted. It is for those that want to be tough, those that want to hustle, those that want and love this business. Like I know Delphine and myself, we love this business so much, but that's what you look for, is somebody, the biggest person you can find to connect with, to give you advice and guidance, to lead you on your path of where to go, whether it is trying to be a commercial broker or trying to be a commercial investor. That would be my advice.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for spending your precious time with us and sharing all the valuable advice. We appreciate so much. Thank you, everyone. And we're looking forward to seeing you in the next videos. Have a wonderful day.
My name is Viku. I'm one of Delphine's many business partners, and just knowing your knowledge now, can you share like what you know about where we're going in the commercial market and especially multifamily? Where do you see we're going in the next 2 quarters?
Yeah, from what we're seeing and what we're hearing, it's obviously a very hot market. It was even very stable during the pandemic. And going into the moratorium where we don't know how many people may lose their homes, you know, there's still that uptick that people need to rent, right? And especially in certain cities, that there's just not enough supply for the demand. So we do see the multifamily as always a good hedge, no matter what, and also against inflation, that we see a lot of printing of the money. It's a good inflation hedge also. So because of lack of supply, because of the inflation that we kind of see, also with the moratorium ending, we do see that multifamily would be a very strong bet. If you're going to kind of make a bet, a hedge for what you're doing, and not really trying to say, well, I'm trying to look at retail and time it and seeing what we're doing. So multifamily is a good, strong, secure investment with some good upside, because you just don't know, you know, what may come up with the moratorium is what we're watching.
Thank you. And would you put more focus on more of the tertiary market right now, or would you just hold off and see what the economy will do?
Yeah, and I always say that it's really what your motivation and your strategy, your investment strategy, right? Because one of the hardest things to do is to time the market, right? Everyone wants to time the market, but you really shouldn't. You should really look at time frame and objectives of what you're trying to accomplish. So if you're short-term, medium-term, long-term money, that is pretty much how you should do it. And also, you know, your age. As you get older, obviously you should be a little more conservative and balance out. So it's really your age and what is your short-term, medium-term, and long-term plan.
Got it. Thank you.
Hey, James.
Yes, Ryan.
Hey, James. Thank you for being here, and I really enjoyed the conversation you had with DELPHINE. Really learned a lot. Just to add on top of what V would just ask you is, going into 2020, what advantage and disadvantages do you see in the multifamily syndication, especially in C class and B class?
This is what I used to have a lot of experience back in the day when I used to invest. I used to invest in the C class type of building, the Section 8, the government subsidies, and I, you know, developed a expertise, right? One of the things is I have some investments with my partners, and because the government still paid the rent, that actually did very well. But you got to understand, when you look at the different multifamily type of product, right? We always say, let's say D or C, B and A type properties, right? And there's always a lot more appreciation and cash flow from some of them. But when you buy it first, when you first buy it, there's really no cash flow for another 2 to 3 years while you stabilize the asset, understand it, and you may get lucky where you can increase it, whether it's in rent control or not. But I did like the C and D type property because they are very high cash flow, but they're also very labor intensive. Do not be surprised if you get called all the time and having the police called all the time and also evicting tenants with retainers. So, you know, it's a risk reward, right? You have to have an expertise and knowledge of running Section 8, C and B, B and C type property, or C and D type properties, because they're just a different skill set, a different animal, we call it, right? So A and B are pretty stable because they're more white collar, right? So they're just more people that will pay it. They don't want to ruin their credit. But C and D are more working class, and you know, it's good and bad, right? You just have to understand what product type you're getting into. But it's very labor intensive, I'll tell you that. But you can make a lot of money off C and D properties because not everyone knows how to run those properties.
Thank you.
There is one question from Jen. With so much experience, you, James, How would you recommend a newbie investor in commercial real estate to get started in the field?
Yeah. And I always say education, education, be patient. I don't know how many calls I get on these all the time. Jim, I want to be invested. Jim, I want to jump in. I want to do this. I want to do that. I heard about arbitrage. I heard about Airbnb, right? You hear about all sorts of stuff. Education, knowledge, like what you're doing here with Delphine, is to learn. And also, as much as you learn, that doesn't take away from the practical experience. So I always say, be the dummy person of investing. Follow somebody who's been successful and has a track record. Either invest as a limited partner, get involved with them. Hopefully they'll mentor you to let you watch them, what they're doing. So you learn how they find the property, right? How do they study, locate an area where they want to invest, or multiple locations? How do they go through their due diligence? What is their criteria, right? How do they come up with the formation of capital? Whether they, put in LLC, they put in a PPM, they borrow from friends and family first, right? There's many ways of putting it together. Then how are they doing the day-to-day operation? How are they putting together the accounting and financials? When is their exit strategy? What is their exit strategy when they leave? So these are all these components, but I would say educate, learn from all these people that you can, like investment groups, books, seminars. But then when you take the leap of faith, you try to put some money, and this is how I first started. I started with maybe $5,000 or $10,000 when I first got in this business. I gave it to a friend. I bought a building with my friend. I kept on 1031 exchanging the property in multifamily up to a point where I did grow about 300 units at the height that I owned. So it was, a good way of learning from other people who I thought were better than myself, learning, getting dirty, which means I was there to turn over some of the units. I learned, I did landscaping, I learned plumbing, I learned a lot until I realized I didn't want to do it. I wasn't good at it. I made enough money from the cash flow with our partnerships that we started getting experts around us. So, it's always about education, knowledge, learning, and then you got to take the chance without throwing all your money in, because I've seen some people make some very critical mistakes, but investing like Delphine and other funds and learning, right? Learning in a little bit, like anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000, it's not going to kill you, but learn everything they do and tell them, I don't want to be so passive. I want to look at the building. I want to walk through it. I want to learn everything you do if I give you this investment dollar. That's what's important, that I found very important when I first started over 25 years ago.
Thank you. So another question. So yesterday I was with a few investors, and they're looking for some multifamily in Chicago. So they always ask about cap rate. So could you please elaborate cap rate, and should we just focus on cap rate alone?
Yeah, and that's the thing. These are rule of thumb measurements, right? Usually in multifamily, people use GRM, right? Gross rent multipliers. In other areas, they use cap rate. Most commercial real estate uses cap rate, right? So you need to understand these definitions, but I wouldn't use GRM or cap rates to determine, but it gives you a good idea. Is it within the realm? You should look at square footage. You should look at rental rates. You need to look at other metrics and see, these are the things investors look at, right? Some investor says, what's the cap rate? And if it's better than what the retail market or the market is, then they're like, oh, I would like to look at it. But that doesn't tell the complete picture of an investment deal, right? It could be, you need a lot of capital improvement, right? It could be a horrible building. It's going to be falling apart. You need to put a bunch of money in to fix it, right? So it is a good measurement, but not the only measurement, because when I was doing it, I looked at square footage, because I always say you can never replace square footage in a multifamily, right? Sometimes they have these small units with high rental rates, right? And so the units are small, right? And the older ones, they're usually larger, but you can renovate them to make them look nice and look bigger, right? So you need to figure out and educate yourself, or with different investments groups, what criteria they do for finding an investment. Because we always say we may look at 100 investments to buy 2 or 3. 100. We look at 100 investments to buy 2 or 3, right? Because we are working with other people's money. You know, sometimes we get lucky with maybe a triple, you know, but you're looking at singles, doubles, most of the time stable. And if you can get triples or home runs, great. But they're few and far between because you have to almost stay loyal to an investment group to kind of get to that point and to kind of go to one higher part. When I was asked about these type of calls before, they say, hey, Jim, how do I know a good investment? And I said, it's obvious. And they go, Jim, what do you mean it's obvious? I said, because any way you look at it, it makes sense, but you're never going to see it. What do you mean I'm never going to see it? You're not going to find it on an MLS. You're not going to find it out there put in your face. Most of those deals are done through friendships and relationships. So that is what I mean. You are not going to find those deals unless, like Delphine or somebody in this group has a relationship, track record, history, that they have this inventory list that they can pull, right, from all these different groups. The closer you are to the center, right, and it is a commercial and many other businesses and industries are relationship businesses. So learning it, cap rate is not the only way, but finding those deals, right, that are good investments. People always ask for that. You need to get closer to the networks and relationships to be a part of those investment deals.
Thank
Hey,
you.
James, to piggyback on this question, actually, so you mentioned that relationship is pretty much everything, right? I mean, it's pretty much like everything in on the real estate transaction, pretty much. So I'm curious though, how do we get that relationship? As in for a newbie guy, where do I find a connection there? Where are you guys hang out, pretty much?
Well, that's a very good question, right? So you do all these things like this group, you know, like Delphine says, like what I told her, depending on what industry you want to possibly invest in, there's many NAR, state realtors, realtor boards you can join, investment clubs, committees, groups, other commercial trade groups. If you just look up investment club, real estate investment club, you're going to find thousands and just tons of different groups and organizations. But it's for you to learn what you want, and then learning, because it's not like the stock market where it's regulated. Unfortunately, in real estate, sometimes there's some bad actors, right? They're going to lock up your money. They just want to tie up your money so they get fees, doing property management, doing all these other things. You need to find track record and reputation, right? Who else invested with them? Who else worked with them? So you know your money is safe. And when you need your money will come back to you. Because I've seen some bad partnerships in my time that they either stole your money outright, it was a Ponzi scheme, or they would never free your money, right? They locked your money up under control because they're the general partner, and it's up to the general partner's discretion. You can never do it. So there are a ton of different investment groups, organizations you can learn from. I would even say the easiest is realtor boards, residential. You know, you always hear the arbitrage on Airbnb, right? Modifying, that's the hot thing everyone's trying to do. But remember, it takes work. You just see their success. Many of these people, they're friends of mine too. And, you know, they work hard and they have whole operational systems behind them. You know what I mean? It took them, I would say some of them, it took them 15, 20 years, right, before they got to this phase. They were successful, but it did take them a long time to get to these stories where you see them on TikTok, Facebook, all these things, right, where they're showing now their success. And if you ever tell them, how did you start, right? They all started this way, the same way. Learning, getting to know it, and then taking some of your capital and taking a chance and investing it with somebody you trust, that you could watch them and learn from them. But that's what it is. There's so many investment groups, and I do like Delphi because I don't do this very often for people. I have to find that they are high integrity, they have a good reputation, and multiple of my friends know her. So I'm like, okay. And one of the things I do care about, if people do know me, I care about the AAPI community. I was very involved, and I always fight for AAPI rights and empowerment and everything. So anytime I could speak to Asians, I love to do this and help and pass my knowledge on.
Thanks, James.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, sorry for stealing the time here, chị Delphi. I just have one more question here. You mentioned earlier that, you know, from talking with people, we can know like who have a good reputation and everything. But because I'm guessing that you invest in so many deals before, right? What are some of the early signal that the investor can detect that, okay, this is a bad one, this is a bad apple, we should not put money into this deal or this person?
Too good to be true. Too good to be true and no track record. Why are you so special to they're taking your money? If I have a track record and I'm doing well, I already have investors. I don't need your money. And especially if you're giving them small money, forget it. That's the red flag. Unless you're the cousin nephew relationship, like somebody says, hey, that could vouch for them and say, can you help my cousin, my nephew, my uncle, help them get in, right? Another relationship to help vouch for you to give you a shot. That's why, you know, when the deal is too good, and why me? You have to ask that. You got to always ask, why me? I don't know you, you know, I don't know anything about you. And that's where the scams come in, right? Track record. You need to see how long the track record. You need to see if they're really successful. You need to see this deal. If it's too good to be true, it usually is. And why me? Why? I always say that, right? I created my own opportunities by creating my own brokerage company, and this through success, and success brings more success, right? And more opportunities. But those are the questions you need to ask. Why me? And a deal is too good to be true. That's probably, you know, I'm just saying, I've seen it, and they usually don't work out the way they say. And if they don't have a track record, that also tells you, right? Track record, the reputation of the individual, and why me? If you are not connected to that person, I would be very skeptical.
Got it. Thank you, James.
Now, James, this is V again. Just quick questions. Would you watch out if you were to park money with someone who have never been through a down cycle?
That's a good question. Not everyone's gone through down cycles. This time, I told people, I would say no, you know, because sometimes new people can find new deals if they've never been through a down cycle. Because you already brought it up, you should test, right? Stress test worst case scenarios to see if this product could help, you know, a financial downside, a cash flow downside, right? Not over leveraging the deal, making sure all the other investors have maybe deeper pockets. What's the exit? And those questions you should ask investors. What if, right? What if this happens? And they should be able to answer it. But I know not everyone has gone through many down cycles. I mean, we were fortunate this time. Within many people's lifetime, we went through two major down cycles, right? With the COVID and those that have been in 2009, right? And then there's many others, but it is not necessarily important if they've gone through a down cycle, but as long as you know it, you should always ask the question and stress test the product to just see what would happen if 20 or 30% or reduction of rent, reduction of this, just, you know, what is your leverage? What is your capital raise? How much are you putting together so you don't have a capital call, right? Or if a capital call comes in, what happens, right? And I've advised some big funds when I first started at Marcus and Millichap, and my clients actually read some big funds, and I was lucky to be there. So I was lucky to learn off their dollar and help them through the 89, when it was 92, 93, and the big one where a lot of my friends, where I was even hit really hard, and it was tough. I'll tell you, I had a beg, borrow, crawl, beg, you know, a very humbling experience in the 2009, like Great Recession. Oh, you're muted, B.
So from that experience, what would you advise us to watch out for this time?
Well, you know what? We always call it, it's never like it was before in recessions, right? You know, and black swans, right? We had two black swans that happened with the pandemic and then also the Great Recession. My thing is with this is just be smart, make sure you could hold on. What I've learned from my mentors was don't over leverage, don't get greedy, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket, you know, try to keep your, but even if you do everything right, things can go wrong, right? Mentally, if you can't handle, let's just say total loss, you know, you're going to have a mental breakdown or something, then you shouldn't almost invest in that. You should invest in something more stable that doesn't make you a lack of sleep. And I'll tell you this, as much as people like to see how rich they can possibly get, if you can't handle the volatility or the stress, don't do it, right? Do something more conservative, because it's not good for you to call everyone and annoy everyone and oh, what's going on, right? We have those kind of investors that you know need to know as an investor how much stress you can handle before you invest in everything, because if you don't, you're going to drive everyone crazy. And let's say you do get through it, they'll probably never want you to be part of the investment again because you drove everyone nuts, right? So you got to know your investment parameters. You got to understand yourself. And if you can't handle it, only put what you can handle to, just say in your mind, totally lose.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. Now, let me just change the topic a little bit. We have a few top realtors in the group, and they're residential realtors. If they were to wanted to change path and become a commercial realtor, do you have some advice for them how to make that transition?
Oh yeah, I always have to do this. As you know, I've been moving up with AREAA and also now with EXP running all of their commercial. And I was asked almost with every other organization, every other group to help with their commercial too. So this is the hardest thing. When you're successful in residential, you don't need to just go to commercial. You could invest by, we all say, be a principal, right? Because it is sexy. You seem like it seems fun doing these large commercial deals, but if you are top of your game in residential, be residential. Hire and grow another part of your team, right? Because it makes no sense when you're doing something well and you're trying to go do something that you may not do well. You know, that's a bird in the hand, right? You have it. Don't try to chase something that's not. But you can educate, you can learn, you can get more knowledge. You can grow a separate team. You can grow an investment team. And then that's what I would suggest for more successful senior residential sales, and that already have teams, that you can now look into other options, look into building your company, right? We always say, don't work in your business on so much, work on your business, right? You don't want to be in the minutia. The hardest for operators is to turn it into a business where, and this is where everyone should know, if I'm not running my business, does my business stop? That means in the business or on the business, right? And investors, even if you're not there, the money is working for you, right? So that's what everyone wants to be. So my thing is from residential to commercial. If you're new, you still have a shot to see where you want to be. But in commercial, you know, it's been said, you need to survive 1 year without a paycheck. Can you survive with a spouse or enough money for 1 year? And when I first worked my first year at Marcus, I would say at least I did 12, 14-hour days, right? From 7 in the morning to about 9 o'clock at night. And then I worked 8 hours on a weekend, usually on a Sunday, to catch up and prepare my week. And I did this for an entire year. You know, we always say year and a half. And I made probably more cold calls and relationship building where I built 5 to 7 unique meetings a week, new meetings, not old meetings, new meetings, new people. So every week I met 5 to 7 new people that would meet with me, right? So if you do that for 1 year, you can see how it just translates as a number game. So if you're not willing to do it, obviously there's other ways of using your relationships, using social media, right? There's new technology. But if this to me is a basics, you don't do it, then I would say do with whatever you're doing, because you're going to be frustrated, angry, it's not going to work. But that's like anything in life, right? And always finding a good mentor teacher when you're doing this. But I am working with Delphine to offer this to everyone else, right? Because the AAPI community I do care about, and giving everyone knowledge. And I'll just say this, because I do care about many communities. I am helping the African American, I'm also helping the Pride and many other trade groups, because this is the way I see it. I like the way with Bruce Lee. Let's share our culture. Let's share who we are. And if we give as Asians to others, they see that we are a teacher, right? We are a teacher, we are a mentor. So they look at our face different. They're like, wow, you know what? They're giving to our group, our community, right? They're not just opening shops and taking money out of whatever community, but I always look past it to try to give back. And those that know me in different associations, that is important to me, is to show from an Asian community that we're not just for ourselves, but we will help other communities too.
Thank you. So back to the investment opportunity. There's a question from Tai, right? What considered to be a good deal in this environment, and or what is a too good to be true deal?
Well, like I said, you know, most real estate you look at, we always call it, is a cash flow or it's an appreciation, right? They say it's a value add. That means it's an appreciation or a cash flow, right? In smaller cities, you get better cash flow, but less appreciation. So when you look at investment deals, more than likely you look at high cash flow or high appreciation. Very rare do you get both. So a great deal, you'll get both. And that does happen, but it's so rare, it's almost that you have to create your own opportunities to find that. So many people here is, if any one of you found that type of opportunity, trust me, you would figure out how to buy it yourself or invest, or you would bring all the money, because that's the hardest part, is to find that opportunity. But more than likely, it's a cash flow deal or it's an appreciation deal, right? That is what it normally is. And if it's both, that's a very good deal. But like I said before, very few of you will find it unless you have relationships, connections, and then doing some due diligence under it. So that is, you know, my experience on what's normal and what is advanced, because it is hard to find those type of deals.
Thank you. Ryan, would you like to ask your question? And
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry to. James, as a new apartment syndicator, what advice do you have? What advice would you give me when choosing a real estate broker, commercial real estate broker? And what role should I play to maintain this relationship? Because to me, this is a sport game and everybody, we play as a team, and I want to keep this relationship. And what role should I play to maintain the relationship?
Yes, and I'll tell you, I was on the other side as the broker, and I always wanted to grow with those that wanted to grow with me, right? Everyone says, oh, I want to be with the top broker in the market. Well, who are you? Nobody. You're nobody to them, because they already have their multi-million-dollar clients in the market, right? They have big clients. So you need to find somebody that you're in line with, somebody hungry, somebody aggressive, somebody that's going to give you the deals before they give it to the big, you know, syndicators, right? Those big buyers. Because we always know in any market in multifamily, we already know who the buyer is. If we do a proposal and we already know the buyers in the market. So you need to get in front of every broker saying, I act as a principal. Hopefully, this is the advanced concept. Hopefully you could act as a principal if you have a real estate license, because if you act as a broker for that property, more than likely, why give it to you, right? So you got to let them know, I act like a principal. This is how much money I am ready to put down. This is what I have ready. And if you've bought any buildings before as a track record, and take the aggressive introduction, looking on LoopNet, looking on, if you have CoStar, finding within your market all of the best brokers, top 10 mortgage brokers, top 10 lenders, some title reps, some escrows, because they all hear different things, right? Like escrows hear if a deal falls out. You want to be ready to pounce and say, hey, escrow officer, tell that broker I'm ready to buy, right? Top 10, top 10, top 10. You reach out, you write a card, you get to know everyone in your market that are top, right? Top 5, let's say even, make it easy, but not just brokers, right? Escrow officers, title officers, lenders, because they all hear something. And you want to be the person, if anything falls out, they go, hey, Ryan is ready to buy. And you need to prove to them, this is the thing, you need to prove to them you're ready to buy. Not, oh, let me tie it up and let me go raise the money. Or you got to be honest, right? That's what you're going to do. Or you involve and you build a relationship, right? Because the worst is you tie it up, you can't raise the money, and you're making the broker suffer, right? Because you can't close the deal, right? That's going to piss them off and never work with you again. So that is what I would suggest. Lining up, we always say, lining up your ducks, making sure you have everything ready. And if you're brand new, it's tough, but get to know everyone within your market, not just brokers. All of the services you need to know.
Thank you.
Hey, hi James, this too. So thank you for sharing back to the community your knowledge and experience. I really appreciate that. So what's really hooked me into the commercial real estate is I found that there's many ways to structure the deal, like a very flexible way. That that's hooked me to the commercial real estate. So can you share with other users like what's the other advantage of the commercial real estate compared to the residential real estate? So we want to know more about this industry.
Yeah, very good question. So commercial, when I left Wall Street to come to real estate, commercial real estate, I called it the Wild West. Like you said, you could structure and everything is insider trading. Think about that. Everything is insider trading in commercial real estate. And commercial real estate, as long as you have a buyer and seller agree in writing, you could do anything, right? Back in the days, for those that remember, we used to do AITDs, right? All-inclusive trust deeds, right? We used to do a lot of ways to wrap around, buy buildings with almost no money down, right? All these crazy things. Everything is possible as long as, right, it's not illegal and you are getting both buyer and seller. And I'll tell you, sometimes it's even gray area, but as long as you get buyer and seller to agree, and even getting a lawyer to be involved, because obviously they don't want to lose their law license. I always say CYA, anytime you want to protect yourself, add a lawyer into it, because if they're involved somehow, they will keep you out of trouble because they have a higher level of responsibility, right? So that is the fun thing about commercial real estate. Anything is possible as long as buyer and seller sign. That's why you hear these arbitrages. You're structuring deals. You're doing wraps. You're doing all sorts of. You're doing swaps of commercial. Yeah, I mean, literally whatever you think you could do. And one group, but it is mostly, I would say, still a big white group, but it's a good group. SEC, Society of Exchange Accommodators. I am very close with them. I can get them with Delphi to have them speak. They are one of the most creative groups I've ever seen in my life of putting deals together and Bitcoins or crypto to exchange in this and using different structures. They are one of the most creative people I've ever seen. And when you get a bunch of creatives, you learn from each other. So, you know, I don't always have it all, but I learn from other people from other groups. But Delphi, I will get leaders from SEC to come speak here, and you'll see how creative and hopefully get more people here involved in time and other trade groups.
Thank you.
Can't wait for that. Yeah, because the thing I found out that's like the more you share, like the more you get received like 100 times for what you share. So I really appreciate that.
Well, the good thing is, you know, I can see it. I paid my dues, you know, with my mentors and everything. You know, being Asian, it wasn't easy. But I always say all my mentors, all the white or Jewish guys, the old school ones, right, 60 to 80 years old. So I was very fortunate to have very strong, good mentors that mentored me. So I'm always, you know, appreciate their mentorship, their advocacy. They're helping me, right, evolve and grow in a very, I would say, white industry. But since they helped me so much, I've always promised to give back. But because I have these relationships, I could help people plug in to almost every trade organizations. Many of their CEO or presidents are all my friends after 25 years. So I'm always happy to share this, to open up the world, right, even more to what we can do.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Thank you, Sam.
All right, thank you so much. Any other question? Otherwise, we will close here to just respects everyone's time.
I'll ask the last question here, James. What is the most profound lessons you have learned in all the years that you are in this business?
Yeah, that now got easier. People, relationships, that's it. I don't care about so much of the money or all these things as much because of going through 2009, but I care now about the people I've met and the relationships and friendships, because I've learned to be enough. You know what I mean? If people understand that, very content, very happy after 2009 and the relationships, and I always feel very blessed that I was given so much, that I give a lot, I help a lot now, because I'm just very happy. I feel very happy because of the people I meet, like Delphine and others, because of this position I'm in. I get to meet fantastic, really fabulous, fantastic people. And from there, opportunities always come, but the money is always very last of what I see, because I'm just a happy, content person in life. So, well, nothing else will make my life any different. So that is the biggest and best thing I've learned through my journey and my experience. And a lot of hardship made me think this way. It wasn't the good times. It was many of the bad times that made me think this way, to be very grateful and appreciative. And really, it's always about the people, the deep, deep, good relationships with people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, James. We appreciate you spend the weekend, an hour with us here and sharing the knowledge and give us great advice. So wish you, enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you everyone for joining us. And I will post all the recorded videos here on the group Nhà Cửa Mỹ groups, so everyone can watch it. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, James.